Welcome everyone to the Med Spa Accelerator Podcast, brought to you by Everable Marketing, the go-to resource so you can get the latest hacks and best practices to market and grow a profitable medical aesthetics practice. My name is Maripili and I am obsessed with all things business, marketing, operations, numbers, and helping you grow and take your med spa to the next level. This is the Med Spa Accelerator Podcast, Season 2.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we are back, super excited to come at you with another episode. Last week, we briefly talked about mindset when it comes to growing the businesses. And towards the end of the episode, we kind of briefly talked about like some of the core functions in every business and kind of like the way that you have to think about it whenever you are in that process of growing your business. And so today we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. We're going to be talking about the 4 core functions that your business needs to have and the way you kind of need to think about it as you're starting to grow it, right?
And so actually these are usually like the 3 S's in the business, but we added a new one because I think it's really important. It kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so typically it's sales, systems, and services, and we're adding staffing.
Oh my God, you have no idea how many like clients have issues with staff.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Staff leaving, staff not being there, staff like changes. Oh my goodness. So I'm so glad we added this.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel that so the reason we wanted to touch on this is just that just to kind of give you a framework whenever you are going to start growing your business, right? Obviously, maybe you're always trying to grow a business, but there's, I feel like a lot of times we fail to look at it objectively, and
systematically.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you can actually break your business down in like sections or segments, right? It's just going to be a lot easier for you to kind of digest what some of the issues are, and then how you should kind of be focusing in certain different, let's just call them pillars, right? In each pillar, so that you can actually solve those problems and you can continue to have growth in your business. And go ahead.
Yeah, because like you said, like when you have maybe like an issue, you're like, okay, everything seems so overwhelming, and you might want to like put on a Band-Aid on it, but you don't really know or understand like where is this really coming from.
Yeah.
So having those compartmentalized that way, it might be easier to really diagnose an issue.
Yeah, definitely. And so the interesting thing about all these 4 elements is kind of like a cycle, right? And so as you grow your business, you will continue to have, let's just call them issues, right? In every single element that will need solving, and that's where you kind of remove those constraints in your business, and you continue to have the growth that you need. So for example, I mean, just as a quick one, it's like a capacity issue, right? You're obviously growing, you've hit capacity, that's a constraint. So then part of it is to figuring out how can I remove that constraint, and ultimately is adding more rooms, moving to a bigger location, so on and so forth, right? And so that's just one easy example. And so we're going to dive into each one of these, so that way you can kind of have a framework of whenever you are starting to grow your business, which one should you start with, and then kind of like what goes from there. Right?
Yeah. And understanding that like this is something that you continuously work on. So and it so happens, like you said, like you fix maybe like something in sales and then service is being affected by it. Yeah. And then you fix service and then staffing becomes an issue and then go back to sales. So
so it's just like something that goes round and round and round. Right?
It's part of being a business.
It's part of being business. We had one of our mentors who said, if the day that your business does not have any problems is the day that you are no longer in business.
Yes.
So super important. Don't get discouraged if your business has problems. It's a sign to know that you're doing well and you haven't given up.
Yes. And it's just about maintaining the health of your business as much as possible. Knowing that like, hey, you're being affected in one area doesn't mean that the whole business is going to go down. Yeah. It just means that you need to pay attention to that area and then go to another one.
For sure. And the way that I like to compartmentalize.
It's a hard word to say.
Yeah. Because even mentally, like for me, like it's just hard, like it's harder to digest when you don't have it like this, right? And so when you do kind of start putting into these pillars, mentally you can it just helps you like focus a little bit better and kind of look at it more objectively. And then therefore you can make more educated decisions, or, pragmatic decisions, right? As to like, what are some of these issues there? And then what are potential solutions for all those things, so you can continue to grow, right?
Definitely. Even like, like we have our leadership meetings inside the business, and we're like, okay, well, where do we need to focus on right now? And it's also really helpful to have somebody that is specifically for that area.
Yeah.
So for example, like our operations manager, we know that like they're on top of service. And then we have our operations, our client success manager that's in charge of this other thing. And so it's also easier seeing like every person being determined in one position. It's
easier because you can also, then once you have it defined, then you can delegate it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, 100%.
Okay, so let's dive into it.
Yeah. So number one, obviously, it's sales. You don't have a business if you don't have any cash flow running through it, right? And so
always be selling.
Yes. And so sales is going to be a number one issue. And, when people reach out to us, that is usually the number one thing they're obviously trying to work on. Like, how do I get more patients? How can I get more of these patients to, say yes to my treatment, right?
Yes.
And so obviously sales is number one. Like, you want to always be focusing on sales. I think one of the issues even that we've had, looking back at our businesses.
What's up with us today?
I know, right? And so, I think we took a time, and we did this on purpose, where we took a time where we said, hey, you know what, let's focus on our systems and our service, and let's kind of like, not really focus on sales this much for maybe like a quarter or two. Well, I think we kind of got to a point where like once we were ready to maybe we took a little bit longer than we wanted to. And then when we were ready to start up sales, it was just a very slow uptick. Yeah.
Yes.
Process to kind of get back to where we needed it to be.
Frustrating.
Yeah, it definitely was frustrating. And so, it was definitely a lesson learned, because it got to the point where since we didn't focus on sales, we became tight when we started having like some issues with the business. And we just knew that if we didn't have sales, we didn't have like the lifeline of our business, the lifeblood of our business, like just wasn't flowing through every other, part of the business. Right. And so it was a big issue that we had to solve. And then this is where actually you stopped doing some of the things that you were previously doing to really focus in on sales to like really get it back to where it needed to be.
Yes.
And so, how was that like? How was that transition for you?
No, I was going to say that we were just talking about this yesterday, right? Where you're like, I feel like I need to go back to like the groundwork and like really make sure that this is solved.
Yeah.
And so I feel like every business owner has to go through that one time or other, where it's like, hey, there's this issue that's going on. And usually I'm not the one in that position. I'm not the one doing those things. But you have to be like, you have to either find somebody, or even before then, like if you want to really fix the problem and you're the one that has the knowledge, then you have to be in that specific
role.
Yes. And so that transition for me was huge, because I've been in every single part of the business except sales. Like that was the one part where I was never really as involved. Like usually it was like your baby. And even in like the previous business that I had before, it was always like so much off referrals that I was like, hey, I do great. When in reality, I didn't, right? Yeah. Like just with cold leads and cold people, like it was just something that I had to learn. And I surprised myself, honestly, of like how much I knew about these things and I didn't know.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes those things don't even come up till like you're there, you're doing it, and you're on the spot.
And it gives you another perspective too with a business, right? So I was able to come back to the team and be like, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. This is where we really need to emphasize and put our attentions into, or like we need to fix these issues.
Yeah, these are the problems we need to solve in the marketplace, so on and so forth. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I mean, that was huge. And so I think part of why we're even talking about this, guys, is that it's part of being a business owner. Like you have to choose your battles, right? It's, because you're always going to have problems in all of these four elements or pillars. But it's kind of choosing which ones are priority, and then that's how you know, okay, I need to dedicate my time here. and I'm going to focus this quarter on solving our sales issue. And then I know I'm going to have other issues in these 3 other pillars, but I am like strategically choosing to document them. Document them obviously so that they're there. Maybe dedicate, like, put out fires like here and there, maybe put some band-aids and stuff. But like until this sales problem is fully fixed, I'm not going to dedicate my time in some of these other ones, or I'm going to have someone else, maybe a business partner or a staff member or someone that, that has the capacity to solve these other issues. And then maybe once, they can kind of take care of those things, and then I can dedicate my attention to those things once I've fixed my sales problem. Right.
Yes.
And so that's how we've gone about it.
Yes. And I think like one of the things we definitely did learn, like you were saying, is like, because we paused sales for such a long time, we realized like we can't do that anymore. And so even though it might not be like our primary focus, or at least mine, like every single time, every single day, it does have to be in there every so often. Like I cannot just like put a band-aid on it. Like it's something that you have continuously to be working on. What are those conversations like, especially now? Like I just felt like from 2020 to now, like there's so much more competition in our area, in everybody's area. Like we talk to new business owners all the time that they're barely starting their business, which is amazing. It's great to see and to hear and to talk to them, but at the same time, that means that there's a lot more competition. So making sure that you're focusing on your sales makes sure that you are standing out from those competitors. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, so it's obviously like, super important. And so, like sales, I mean, lifeblood, right? Like you have to continue to do sales. And I think one of the ways that we've gone about it is that like, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to implement these solutions. Once we found the solution, then I'm going to bring someone else and train them with these newfound solutions that we came up with, and then they can run with that. Right now, I've taken care of that issue. I've outsourced it. I've hired someone to specifically do it. Now I'm going to go focus on service. I'm going to go focus on staffing. I'm going to go focus on whatever, right? Systems. And so and that's how we've usually gone about it. So that's number 1, sales. Like if you currently are struggling with sales, then I would say go listen to every other episode that we've done, because it's primarily focused on how to do more marketing, advertising, and sales, right? Or reach out to us. That's definitely something we can help you with, right? We can accelerate you when it comes to that pillar specifically.
And we know the importance of it too so much that we've actually partnered with like experts in their field specifically for sales, and we like make sure that our clients go to them and have a coaching with them so that they can do better, because we know how important that is. And so it's so like, it's huge. Like if you haven't seen those, make sure to watch it. And if you want to become a client of ours and have that coaching, please make sure to contact us, because
definitely
they're amazing at what they do. Like I'm surprised at how amazing they are.
Yeah, they're definitely really, really great. A really great resource to have. So that's number 1. Number 2, which I know you love.
I love. Systems are king. Like systems are king in our business for sure. And I think like it's something that to me kind of has come naturally. Like when I was CEO at Everable, like that's where I really shined. And for me, it was such a game changer. Even in my previous like business and stuff, like as a solopreneur, I understood how amazing it was to have systems in place. Like it just helps with quality of service. It helps to make sure that everybody has that same amazing service every single time. It helps to ease into chaos when something happens, which we know happens a lot. And it also brings ease to the staff and to everybody around you, because you can't be everywhere like 24/7. You can't be trying to fix everything. So if you give somebody a game plan and the way that you want things to be done, then it's way easier for somebody to actually put that into action.
Yeah. And so we just described, if you notice previously, we described the perfect scenario in like where systems comes into place, right? So I gave the example that, we dedicated some time to sales, and then from there we said, hey, these are the solutions that are working. We created a system out of those solutions, and then we hired someone to come and take over those systems, right? But when we train them on those systems. And so you can already start to, piece all the pillars together. And that's why we're saying that it's a cycle, right? Because at the end of the day, when you start doing sales, then you're going to start to unveil, let's just say that, some of the other issues that your business has that you might have not even realized that you had those issues to begin with. And that's what marketing, that's what advertising does. Like, you just add fuel to the fire. And if something in your business has a crack, you know what I mean? Like a leak. Well, when you start funneling a lot more water through that, you potentially
it's gonna show.
Yeah, right. Like it's gonna notice, and you'll definitely like see that there. And so that's where then you say, okay, what are the systems that I need to implement so that I can solve these other issues now? Right. And so, and that might be whatever, right? Because obviously you're generating a lot more, let's just say patience, right? You're generating a lot more flow now. Well, were there any issues that arose? Issues that arise, right? Were there any issues that came up whenever you started funneling a lot more patients into your practice, right? So was your front desk on point, right? Like, was your delivery on point? Was your customer satisfaction on point, right? Like, so all of those things, that's what I'm saying. Like, you'll start noticing that maybe little issues happen here and there. And that's why you need to document them. To ensure, right, that like once you've solved the sales problem, you can now come and solve these other issues that happen and create systems out of those issues, right?
So they don't happen again. That's huge. And our operations manager is amazing at that, because that's the thing too. Like, we notice that, hey, this happened, because something's always going to happen. And so we need to ensure that what can we do so it doesn't happen again? What can we do so that things go flow a little bit better, that everybody's time is used to the best of their ability, and they're being productive, because that's the other thing. It goes back to staffing, right? Like, making sure that like whatever their time, you're paying these people, it is your resource. So making sure that their time and their abilities are used to the best that they can be, it's huge for the health of your business. For sure.
Yeah. And so systems play a huge role. I mean, third to that is like service. And like sometimes it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like it's like either systems or services, right? Well, by service, we're talking about like the quality of the service, right? Like whenever you start funneling patients into your practice, like how well is your staff able to deliver upon that service? What is, customer satisfaction, like all that stuff. Sometimes even capacity, right? Like you obviously start getting a lot more patients. You have the systems there to service them, and you're servicing them very efficiently. But then you realize, hey, we've just kind of hit capacity. Like people are spending too much time in the waiting room, like whatever, right? Okay, well, how can I solve that service problem so that I can continue to provide the best service that we want to be providing for our patients, right? And then go from there, right? And so it definitely, service is another one to kind of take a look at, and like looking at like what are our customer satisfaction? Like, do we have any buyers or people that have expressed buyer remorse, right? Like is our staff fully delivering upon the deliverables that we promised them, right?
What was promised and what they experienced. And another too is also because of like, now that you went through sales and we were talking about like how to stand out from your competition in service, well, should I be adding something else to bring in more value to this? Maybe I'm getting too many competitors in my area that are doing exactly what I'm doing with exact same pricing, with exact same like offer. Do I need to change something? Do I need to bring in something that complements it really well so that I can stand out from that?
Yeah, for sure. And that was one of the things that, like, I know this was a few years ago, we started growing very rapidly, and we identified that we started having some issues in the deliverable. And so that's when like we were like, okay, well, maybe we should take a step back and then and we were even we had just mentioned that like, okay, maybe I should like leave that running, right? And then actually maybe dedicate some time to doing the service ourselves, right? To kind of really solve some of these issues that need solving. And then once we do that, again, we create a system out of it. We hire right people, right? And then they come and take over. And that's usually the process. Like, it's kind of, it's simplified. It's not it's simple. Of course, it's not easy because a lot of the times you just need sometimes it's like those kinds of things that you need to grind through it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to share like some of your experience, because I know like when you first started doing sales, like, it was kind of something that you had struggled with. And it was a lot of time that, that you were pretty much working all day. I kind of had to be with like Luca most of the day. I would just take him for feedings.
Yeah. You became a full-time dad.
Yeah. I became a full-time dad there for a minute. And so, I mean, I know I kept one of the things saying like, hey, it's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like it's only for a few weeks or whatever till we figure this out. And then we can, again, create the systems, hire the right people, and then you can offboard it. Right.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So actually it was tough. Like I said, like it's something that I had never really like dived into. It was something that I knew a lot, like theoretically about it. Like it's something that I helped clients with, but it wasn't something that I had to like get my hands dirty with. And so for me, the biggest thing was just like the mindset, right? Of like, excuse my French, but shit, I don't want to do this. Like, like get me out of here. I am like an introvert at heart. And so I'm like, as much as I understand sales, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And so when I started doing it, I was like, I had to obviously get my fears out of it. And everything that we've talked about, like honestly, like go and watch those episodes, because everything that we talked about is specifically with this in mind. Like I had to step out of like my comfort zone. I had to step out of like selling with my wallet. I had to step out of like this like sales mindset of, like the cheesy car salesman, like actually focus on like, this is the service that I'm providing. This is how I'm helping business owners solve their problems. And so for me, the mindset was huge, right? And once I was in it, like I said, like I surprised myself because I knew so much more. And I feel like I also learned that nobody has your mind, right? Nobody's going to see your business the way you see your business. And you're just going to learn so much more of your business while you're in it. And so once I was able to do that and understand, like I loved it. I do love talking to like clients, and I do love talking to people, as introverted as I can be. Like it's something that like I'm passionate about, and it fires me up. And I would have like from 15-minute calls to like an hour-long calls. I know you'd be like, babe, like Luca needs to eat. I'm like, I know, but this is really good. So I like, it's something that I know that I'm naturally good at it, or passionate about. And so it was really helpful to bring back all of that information, like we said, to focus on the next thing. Right.
For sure.
Because it really opened up my mind to like, okay, well, these are all the things that we had been solving, but there's more to this, or there's something that I hadn't seen before. And so bringing it back to like, hey, now let's talk about like the next few steps, right? The systems, the service, the staffing, and how to train our staff and how to approach that, which we'll talk about that in a sec. So yes, it was like hard, but it was so worth it. And the time put in it is something very, very valuable that I, as a business owner, understood that I had to go through.
For sure.
And it came out way better at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think like part of the process, and I mean, both you and I have gone through this multiple times already, and in the different pillars that we talked about, right? Where it's like, yes, you're hustling, you're grinding. You might be putting a few hours extra than maybe you were used to. And
I was exhausted.
Right. Yeah. And so a lot of the times, and it's funny because I actually was having this conversation with a few other friends that are also entrepreneurs. Like there will be times in your business, like seasons, right? Like where you will have to, maybe you're used to really only working a few hours a day, right? And things are great. But then something happens, and then that's when you're like, okay, I need to step back in and actually dedicate more hours to this specific project, right?
Right.
And it might mean that you have to, like we say all the time, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get back, get uncomfortable, right? And you have to like solve these problems because, sometimes you get used to the good life, right?
Yes, honestly, like, and me also coming back from like maternity leave and then just working a few hours, being obviously with a newborn, and then suddenly it's like, boom, like this is what you need to do, which the business needed it.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, it was a tough time. Like I remember, both you and I had like some really, intense conversations on like, what we were going to do, how we were going to go about it, so on and so forth. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just a great learning experience because we were able to solve that. Obviously things are a lot better now. But it's that transition that's always a little bit interesting because like once you outsource it, once you pass it on, like you fix it, you pass it on, it's like, okay, all right, now let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, the next thing is staffing, which I think is huge because it is the second part to this. Like you already put all this work into solving this issue, but now adding it to somebody and working the systems, but then giving it to somebody else, which is why I feel it's so important for us to add this S of staffing, because it is the person that you're adding in there that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it is the onboarding and the time that you're spending with them, ensuring that they understand not only how to work the systems, but the why behind these systems and the why you have to say it this way instead of that way, or doing this way instead of that way, and the why your mind came to that. And for them to like not only understand it, but almost like meet you where you're at, like meet them via values, which I think is huge. It's what's really going to move everything forward. If not, everything you did is just going to stay there.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And so, and this is how, kind of like that infinite circle. Right. And so at the end of the day, right, you got sales, you got your systems, you got your service. The last piece is staff. Right. And so you said, like, we got the sales, we created a system, we ensured that the service was there. And then, hey, now we're at a point where we need to hire more people. But guess what? Things are going to be a lot better or a lot easier to onboard them, to train them, because you already have those systems in place. And that is what's super important during this process. And it's just going to, make hiring them, because of all the work you already did, hiring them is just going to be a lot of a smoother process in getting them at full capacity. You know what I mean? Like getting them to actually start functioning, start, producing revenue, so on and so forth.
Right. Because another thing that kind of comes with that about hiring, and like I said, it's some of the things that we've noticed with clients having issues is because you already did this, or at least in my case, for example, me doing sales and being in those like forefront, I understand what kind of person I want in our business. That's going to be that first interaction, for example, with my people, right? So because of that, like I want to make sure that when I'm hiring somebody that has these characteristics as part of their personality.
For sure.
There are some things that are teachable, of course, and there are some things that they already have with their knowledge and their experience, which is huge. But at the same time, it's like I said, like they have to meet you with those values. But because you already did it, I'm like, I want somebody that understands the value of service, that understands that we're not here to sell and just to get the money out of somebody, but actually helping them. This is a stepping stone into what their business is going to look like later. And so this is an investment in some, like understanding those values, I think it's huge, but because you already did it and you understand.
Yeah, you already know because you did it, right? Exactly. And so that's like super important too, and I think super valuable. Now, I don't think might not always be the case for every single role, right? But I do think that a little bit of that element needs to be in place, or at least having somebody within your business, whether it's a business partner or some staff member that does have that experience, so that they can actually coach those people and and make sure that they're doing a good job. Yeah. Now, for all of these core, for all of these pillars, like you don't have to be the one that does them all. There's like what we said in the beginning, right? Like that's why you have maybe a business partner. That's why you have some staff that, that's a little bit more of your leadership staff, and they can obviously alleviate some of the pressure and load off of doing these things. But obviously it's something that you are always overseeing. Yeah. Right. So
because when you have great staff, like you're gonna notice, like even if it's somebody or a role that you might not feel like it's as important as a leadership role, but you're gonna know and notice that person, like, hey, they have these characteristics that I I value, and they're the characteristics that I need so the business keeps moving forward. And it's happened to us inside our business where we see somebody that, hey, they were just doing like tech stuff and systems, and then they're solving issues, and then they're like actually being they're self-motivated, and they bring you solutions to things that you didn't even know were issues, and then and they keep moving forward and forward in your business. So it doesn't have to be you in every single thing, but noticing those like star and A players is huge for the success and the health of the business.
Definitely, 100%. So that is the cycle and goes round and round and round, yes. Right? And so hopefully...
Sometimes staggered too.
Yeah. Yeah. And put them in whatever order you want, but they're always there, right? Mm-hmm. And so hopefully this information has been insightful and it's kind of giving you a framework to how to kind of look at your business a little bit more objectively, and then where you can start dedicating your time on each pillar so that you can solve some of these issues and continue to have this growth, right? Businesses... growth always just kind of looks like that, right? And so, you solve one thing, maybe there's an issue, you have a dip, but then you solve it and then you have another big, increase in your growth, right? And this is how we've done it. This is how we know a lot of other successful businesses have done it as well. And this is what we wanted to bring to you all to kind of, give you that framework of how you should be thinking about it when you're ready to start having this growth in your business.
Definitely. I mean, and we love to start a conversation. So if you have any insights on this, anything else you want to add, any other S's in there that you want to add, make sure to comment below if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you are inside our Facebook groups, make sure to go and say hi, ask us any questions. We would love to talk to you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye.